NBS Frontline. Norbert Mao's homecoming was filled with dancing and jubilation. But underneath, questions linger about the fate of the Democratic Party. It is now 1 year since Uganda's oldest political party joined forces with the ruling NRM in a cooperation agreement. But the fruits of the partnership have yet to materialize for those members opposed to it.
What we don't want our people to believe is that that is a DP function.
It has never been sanctioned by any organ of the party, so it cannot be an occasion of the party.
While the rest of the party held prayers in Kampala, in Gulu, the NRM chairperson officially welcomed DP's President General to the NRM.
I congratulate both Honorable Norbert Mao and the DP, and also the people who are here. The honorable cooperation with the NRM.
Elsewhere, the FDC leadership continues to grapple with infighting that has shaken the party to its core. What does this mean for the opposition as the 2026 election draws near? With some parties already shaking hands with the other side, will a divided opposition be able to uproot the NRM come 2026? Will there be an opposition worth the name in 2026? This is The Frontline. Frontline.
Well, it's Frontline. My name is Simon Kagwanjala, and tonight our focus is on the opposition. In the midst of all this confusion, DP is having a fair share of uncertainties and confusion. Last week's homecoming on Saturday that was hosted by Honorable Norbert Mao spoke volumes. Mao was warmly welcomed to the NRM by President Museveni, and he says the cooperation between NRM and DP and Mao's role in the NRM is a step in the right direction. What does this portend for Uganda's oldest party? FDC remains in the news, of course, over money and the shady elections. Are we talking to a dispirited nation where the opposition is split, where the NRM is also very undecided on whether to go MK, standby generator, or Mzee Itova Kumbein? That's the state of politics in the country. Joining me tonight, I have the fiery Honorable Ibrahim Semuju Nganda, Member of Parliament, Chira Municipality, and I wonder, are you still the spokesperson of FDC?
My term is expiring in November.
Okay. Are you active?
I am not active, but I am the party spokesperson.
Well, good to have you with us.
Thank you.
At a very good evening.
Thank you.
We're also joined by the President of the Justice Forum and Member of Parliament of Bugiri Municipality, Honorable Asuman Basalirwa. Good to have you and a very good evening.
Thank you. Good evening to all our viewers.
Wonderful. Honorable Dr. Miria Matembe, a politician in her category, a woman activist, and a preacher. Good to have you.
I told you I'm a senior citizen in this country. This activism thing, I don't want to hear it again. I'm a senior citizen, a child of God. Good evening, good evening, viewers. How long shall I teach you?
Who baptized you that
What?
rank of a senior citizen?
God.
Where is your seniority?
In this brain, in the age, in the work I have done in this country, in everything.
Well, the man who has now become a wordsmith, Honorable Fred Mukasa Mbide, you would need a dictionary to understand some of the terms that he speaks about. But well, the Vice President of the Democratic Party, nice to have you with us. and a good evening.
Thank you, Simon, panelists, and I greet you, the viewers.
Excellent. Well, tonight we're also joined by the Director of Communications at the NRM Secretariat, Honorable Dombo Lumala Emmanuel. Good to have you and a very good evening.
Good evening, Simon, and good evening, the panelists, and good evening, our viewers. It's a pleasure for me to be here tonight once again.
Well, it will be very interesting to start with Honorable Mukasambide. Last week's homecoming of Honorable Norbert Mao revealed quite a number of things. He was welcomed formally into the NRM. Does that suggest that what was initially cooperation has now become a formal marriage?
There was no such a formal welcome into the NRM. I think I should have to make that correction. It remains the kind of cooperation agreement that was signed, and that's it. What I saw was what I think those that could not understand the English language properly and discerning documents properly, because you see that is restricted generally to those that have got the proficiency to discern documents. The document was written on a State House headed paper, marked clearly the Republic of Uganda. And the address was also put in very certain terms, not plot 10 Chadondo Road, which ideally would have been obviously the headed paper of the National Resistance Movement. So clearly the welcome that was given credence at the time was the welcome to government. Because Honorable Mao, as you well know, is a minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs of the government of the Republic of Uganda. So I find it very important that we make that correction. Otherwise, the other welcome would have culminated into probably a departure from the Democratic Party pursuant to our constitution and generally joining formally the National Resistance Movement, which wasn't the case.
So what was the role of the vice chairman of the NRM as he welcomed Mao into NRM?
The vice chairman represented the chairman. The cooperation agreement was between the two political parties. What you had ideally alluded to was a membership. I am still maintaining that this is a cooperation where each cooperating entity maintains its membership. That is the law under the Political Parties and Organizations Act, particularly Section 20. So the chairman represented the vice chairman. The welcome remark otherwise was also read instead by the chairman who chose to write as president. So in my opinion, I think I did not have the occasion to guide him over that. If I were the one, I would have written as a chairman of NRM.
With apology, I will need to deviate a little from this, and we are certainly going to get back. There is something that is very central to our survival as the media, and I'll start with Honorable Dombo. The National Association of Broadcasters came up with a media blackout in the wake of the decision by government to allocate all advertising revenue to UBC and Vision Group. Are you impacted by this blackout, and what do you think can resolve the current impasse?
Simon, you know that until the liberalization of the media spectrum, the Ugandans relied only on Radio Uganda and Uganda Television, whose viewership, content, and outlook was very limited until the liberalization was done. When the move to liberalize came, I remember in one of the caucus meetings, the president addressing and telling us when he accepted and allowed the media spectrum to be liberalized, he said he had received a lot of wise counsel from either the military and some politicians advising against liberalizing and opening up the spectrum. Because you know, every time there was a leadership contestation, what indicated that there was an overthrow of government was taking over Radio Uganda and somebody announcing and declaring himself either to have captured the state. And many people feared. But on the insistence of the president, he said the state is not protected by the radio. The state is protected by the army and the other institutions of governance. And he assured the public and the Ugandans that opening up the industry is going to be an opportunity to create many jobs, provide information, but also create various content and viewership, and also information to the viewers and the people who will be enjoying the spectrum. Over the years, this has proved President Museveni to be right. Because how else would we be here if the media fraternity had not been opened up? How much tax have we raised? Mr. Kagwanjala, where would you be working if the media spectrum hadn't opened up? So ordinarily, because of the good decision that was taken, Ugandans have come to reap out of it. But also, during the implementation of the same, there have been some challenges that have been witnessed. Because when you read the president's letter, it was a response to another letter written by one of the managing directors of the UBC. And he raises governance challenges within the corporation, and perhaps he also makes proposals on how best some of these would be overcome. The biggest benefit out of the president's letter and directive, one of the things I want to state here, is that many Ugandans didn't know that actually the survival of the media industry is really dependent on the good relationship between government, because until the alarm that have been made by various stakeholders within the media industry, people didn't know that government was one of the biggest contributors, that a decision taken by the president to that effect would result into this type of pain and stimulate the reaction that the Association of Broadcasters have come up with. I'm very sure that there is no way the president would wish to kill the baby that he has produced and nurtured. That is the liberalized media industry, and also the benefits that have come out of it. Secondly, I've seen the ultimatum that has been given by the association and the eventual decision that have been made. Whereas this is one of the methods of work that many Ugandans have of recent come up to choose to work with, I don't think the avenues, all the avenues had been exhausted in order to find out whether this is something that can work. I therefore welcome the decision that has been taken by the Speaker of Parliament this afternoon, when a decision has been taken that let the Committee of Parliament evaluate the consequences of this decision and find out how is it likely to affect the industry, the economy, and also make recommendations. And together with this and the other consultations that are taking place, I'm very sure that we are going to find a middle position where the media spectrum is going to benefit from, but also where the public broadcaster is likely going to benefit more than what has been happening.
Thank you very much. Hon.Basalirwa Asuman Basalirwa, the matter has been referred to the ICT Committee of Parliament. Do you think NAB is likely to get some of the desired relief, or it could be yet another issue just to soothe us?
Well, it has been referred to the committee because there was a petition in Parliament. I want to imagine that NAB took the right step to petition Parliament, because in the circumstances, only Parliament can be the best voice of NAB. And I'm glad that the matter is before the committee. I want to invite NAB and other stakeholders to appear before the committee, and they are heard and listened to.
Can Parliament reverse an executive decision of this matter?
It may not reverse, but it will give recommendations. It will advise. Because in any case, by the way, UBC has been a beneficiary of many gifts, if I can use that term. I recall one time I attended a meeting where the speaker was giving equipment previously meant for Parliament to UBC, free. So they have been a beneficiary. And you see why it's important to cooperate with Parliament. If, for example, there is no good working relationship between Parliament and the executive, even appropriation becomes a challenge. The money that they want to give UBC may eventually not be there. So I want to think that the committee will do justice, and I want to imagine that the executive will listen to the recommendations of Parliament in as far as this decision is concerned, which I really regard to be unfortunate, unnecessary. I don't know whether it was a unilateral decision by the President or there was a cabinet sitting that made a resolution in that direction. Either way, it is unfortunate, it's unnecessary. It shouldn't have come from Mr. Museveni, who has been an advocate of liberalism, especially in the recent past.
Very interesting. Honorable Semuju, do you have this optimism that Parliament will prevail over the executive to ensure that independent media thrives in Uganda?
I think from his socialist communism background, Mr. Museveni lacks full control. He's a very good student of Ethiopian politics. That's why recently he said construction now must be done by the military. And I think all of us, including all of you guys in the media, made a mistake not to sound the same alarm like you are sounding now on advertising. Because even the construction industry, contracts must be competed for. See the construction of Nambole, the problems it has run into. The other day I told you the chairman of FUFA said to be accredited, your facility must be constructed by certified companies by FIFA. Now the military is fidgeting with the airport, with the stadium. So from there, it is now government advertising must go through UBC. That UBC has been run down by Museveni. He runs it the same way I think Obote and Aminu were running it. One time I was quarreling with friends with whom we did journalism. Their main story is Museveni. The second main story is his wife. Then the Prime Minister and all the government hierarchy, even when they are saying nothing useful. And they want to compete with the... Because at one time, I remember, it must have been either Robert Kaushenga when he was at Media Center. At that time, they had wanted government advertising to go through Media Center. I was still in the Observer. Some government people protested. I remember I had a meeting with Keith Mwakanis, the leader, and he said, no, I will choose which medium I want. You don't choose for me. Mr. Museveni runs this country. You can see the director, NRM.
Communication.
He's also lamenting, hey, the president will hear. I thought it is your duty to advise him that what you are doing is wrong. Interestingly, when we had Ofono here last week, they say now they are going to go back to the president and explain. Sometimes things just happen that way. So yes, Parliament will do its job.
One of the letter was lost in interpretation, so they need to clarify.
One of the problems, we've done laws, and I said it last week, almost in every legislation, there is a requirement to advertise in the media, of recently added social media, of wide saturation. That's a legal statutory requirement in most of the laws. So this directive cannot amend the laws. It cannot. Because if you've done, and Asuman knows how many, almost in each and every bill passed by Parliament, there is a component of advertising in a media of wide saturation. So this letter actually seeks to amend even laws of parliament. But I know Mr. Museveni, there was time he appointed Chinobe to become an ambassador in Russia when he had just posted another ambassador within 2 weeks. Maybe because of his age and too much work, what Professor Asuman used to call presidentialism. Sometimes he doesn't think through decisions. So this particular one will collapse because it is not implementable. It will not collapse. He will now realize the same way he realized that I'm appointing Chinobe to go to Russia where there is another ambassador, that actually this was a wrong decision. So the Dombos can't advise him because their job is to cheer him as he makes a mistake, and I think that pleases him. So they go, Mr. President, you are the one who liberalized the media, as if the media is not liberalized everywhere. That's like Dombo here. He even wants to thank someone for doing nothing. In Kenya, they have the same number of radio stations as you have, the same number of newspapers, even in Rwanda, even in Tanzania, even in Burundi. I don't know why you think that every day you must find a reason to thank Museveni. Because just tell me a country where there are not many FM stations for you to think that Museveni is the one, is the reason that the media is liberalized in the whole world. Everywhere you go, 100, 150. Because that's a trade that came. The other I saw an NRM person thanking Museveni for bringing mobile phones, as if he manufactured them from his farm. There are things that have happened by themselves. Technology has grown. Find things to thank him that are legitimate, not for things that have happened. Even if it was Amin in charge of Uganda, you'll still have these things. My senior brother, Emmanuel.
Honorable Miriam Matembe, we need to run through this very fast and get back to politics. What is your take on the standoff between broadcasters, the National Association of Broadcasters, and government over advertising revenue?
I think there are certain things which I don't have to talk about. We came here to talk about the issues which they asked me to talk about. But this thing which we are discussing now, he has talked about it. What more do I have to add? When I listened to it, I thought there goes another strange decision. What do I do with this, His Excellency? He decides what he wants.
It's strange, right?
But how could you, you know, there are certain things which I listen to or I watch and say, surely, where are we going? And I just leave it at that. Well, but as for the media, of course, to respond, to reject, they were right. And I'm glad that the speaker said, no, let's look into it so that we can see how we can sort out the problem.
Well, I want us to get back to where we started on the question of the Democratic Party and the mist that surrounds...
You did not want the DP views on the media impact?
Okay, you could drop... Yes, you could share the DP position.
We are very strong.
The by was running a newspaper.
Yes, I was running a newspaper, and we are extremely strong.
If you could remind us that paper?
Financial Trends. I was running it when I was actually a student of Makerere University of Mass Communication.
When you drove a Volvo, I remember around that time, yes.
So this is all a broad policy on attempts to control what they term inflammatory media, control by the state. And I think that is being done by way of chicanery for purposes that now the liberalized media, private, inflammatory, and which is actually not geared towards praises to the government, must be denied the business. In the same vein, therefore, you will find now newspapers folding, media houses failing, because government is a very key investor in the process of communication. It has happened everywhere, elsewhere before, and it has failed. The Prime Minister of Bulgaria one time, that was 2013, he was engaged in a telephone conversation with the government prosecutor and the minister. And they discovered that this inflammatory media must also be controlled by being denied business. The telephone conversation leaked, and it led to, of course, a complete overhaul of the manner in which government investments are given. Public spending is done on material businesses that are being run either by government or even by private institutions. So this has to be fought. And as the Democratic Party, we don't believe this should also remain.
Excellent. Shifting back to politics. Honorable Asuman Basalirwa, you must be having a lot to watch lately, but over the weekend, Mao held a very massive homecoming in Gulu, where key statements were done. Was this a revelation of what has been a secret earlier about the DP-NRM cooperation agreement? Mao was formally welcomed into NRM.
Did he accept the welcome? I don't know.
What do you read between the lines?
Unfortunately, I didn't follow so much. I and Ibra were in Bukoma Simbi sending off the Honorable Sen Chanjo. That very same day, the function was happening in Gulu. Same day, same time. So I didn't have opportunity to follow. But there are really two things for me that come to the fore. Number one, there is a cooperation agreement, as my brother Honorable Mbide has said. Now, that cooperation agreement logically has consequences. And the statements by the vice chairperson of the NRM, the nature of guests, the speeches that were made, as far as I'm concerned, were not surprising. And I think they are in tandem with the cooperation agreement. What would you have expected Mr. Museveni to say on that occasion, apart from welcoming Honorable Mao to the NRM? As to whether he accepted the welcome is something to discuss. Maybe after getting the response. I have not heard him, the speech he made. He did not directly comment to the welcome remarks that were made. I don't know whether he will do it subsequently, I don't know. But what is not in contest is that there is an agreement between the DP and the NRM. You saw in the speech by the vice chairperson of the NRM appreciating people like,
Joyce Sebugwao,
formerly of FDC, the level of vice president, Akena and the UPC. So the statements were very clear, those they are working with. So what we saw in Gulu only reflects now the level of cooperation. It is really at that level of reaching an extent of saying, maybe perhaps we should go beyond a cooperation and come into some holy union or holy marriage. That's really what I see. And who knows? Most likely it will end up into a union.
How did you read into the compliments from the president in describing DP and UPC as good allies and the people that are good to cooperate with?
It was not surprising, because what else would we have said with the team that he has entered an agreement with? It is only logical, to praise them. It is only logical to welcome them. Otherwise, if he didn't do so, then what would have been the purpose of the agreement? 1 year on,
the deal between DP and NRM remains a big mystery. They have not disclosed what was embedded in it. Is it time for us to scrutinize it?
Well, but the terms of the agreement, which we may not be privy to, maybe perhaps don't require a lot of publicity.
It's a non-disclosure.
No, there could be some non-disclosure clauses. I am aware, for example, that our colleagues in the Parliament have been raising these issues. I don't know how they are being managed within the DP, because they keep asking, what should near happen in Parliament? If there is a position, a government position, as DP MPs, do we support the position of government now that our party president is a member of cabinet, or we support the position of the opposition? So those are issues that I think need clarity, and I'm glad our brother is here, who I want to imagine was an architect. So the mystery you are talking about can also be understood from the terms of the cooperation. If there are non-disclosure clauses, then we have nothing much to do. And maybe again, it goes into the internal workings of the party, of the Democratic Party. how do you arrive at agreements of that nature? Which organs are involved in the negotiations? So the DP leadership and the DP membership perhaps have better leverage over us.
Well, before I shift to other panelists, Honorable Mbide, 1 year on, are we seeing the dividends of the agreement now that the discussion is openly about welcoming you and embracing you into NRM?
First of all, I think what you need to know, what were the objective reasons that made it a logical necessity for a party on the opposition to enter into an agreement with a ruling party? One of the material benefits that the country must now watch over is the proper fight against the power of bias. Because the power of bias had even become the moving swan song on the lips of every politician. Bias by the opposition against the NRM, bias by the NRM and all its cadreship against opposition. And I think the material decision that there can even be a sitting to talk about cooperation, that was one of the first achievements. Just like resolution of conflicts happens. It happens in phases. There must be talks about talks. There are times when even the fact that you can have warring sides on one single table, even when they are going to disagree, talk. That is one of the achievements. Then number two, the agreement itself has got cooperation areas. One of the areas includes amendment of laws, particular constitutional amendments that are required. One of the achievements then was the appointment of the minister as a tool of implementation of the agreement. It has taken, and for me, I think, for the President of the Republic of Uganda, who majorly respects those that are fighting him with the gun, to respect those that did not actually get the highest number of votes, sit with them, agree, and even appoint a tool of implementation of any of the particular provisions of the agreement. For me, that is an achievement. Some achievements, of course, we are talking about a government that has been in power for over 37 years. And you want achievements to actually be counted and enumerated in terms of agreement between the two. Government that has been governing, those that have been governed, but in 1 year, you want achievements to also be on paper.
So
I can simply tell you,
it's too early to count the achievements.
No, it is actually timely that we can celebrate over what we have achieved so far. But it is too early for you to talk of completion. Even when you are talking of constitutional amendments, we have not even had the views rightly from the opposition, for example, culminating
the first blow DP suffered was a denial from President Museveni that you ever discussed anything to do with the transition.
You see, our cooperation was reduced into agreement. It was written. I was on some of the television stations and I had the lips lingua. But what I can tell you, the lawyers are here. For us, the Latin maxim of leo demo de ko olutul, leo demo de disolutul applies with equal force. That what has been reduced into writing can only be dissolved into writing. So once we have appended signatures to a written agreement, we cannot keep following principles to an agreement on what they are saying, what are they. Those are just majorly peremptory talk that we cannot, in ponder levels, that for us we cannot keep following upon. What is material here is that you digress over what we have agreed upon. The option is available even in the agreement itself. Entry and exit are all served with wider gates. So we are talking about what we have appended signatures to, and that is what we are following on equal footing.
How come what you appended signatures to remains a big secret 1 year later?
These are not secrets.
Remains shrouded in secrecy.
No, these are not secrets, but we are talking about something that is new in Uganda. It is extremely new and incongruous to the peremptory conduct that has been refractory by the opposition. What we knew as the opposition was that when the president is talking on a television station, you must switch off. That we must riot against every detail of what they are doing. And that we must remain refractory against whatever they are doing. Now, we are introducing something new that I think we can have dialogue. So, in my opinion, these are new things. I can see even my senior here, he doesn't want to quote what I am talking about. But the good thing is that she's a former minister, just
You are
like Mao
talking
is
about
a
me
minister
even
now.
when I'm quiet.
Yes, but you are making movements that I may not have.
Now
I may not
she's
have
provoking me.
Yes. So, what I would like to tell you, Simon, is that these are new things. Every agreement has got its style of management, style of implementation. Just like a bill, it is presented to Parliament and it tells even, once it is passed into an act of Parliament, it appoints even a date it appoints a date on which it begins to function. It appoints a method of amendment of such a bill, just like a constitution. So these agreements are treated in a manner and the style agreed upon by the principals.
Well, very interesting. Honorable Miriam Atembe, going by the statements on Saturday at Mao's homecoming, would everything suggest that the pretense about whether DP is now NRM or into NRM has ended?
Well, I think Mbide was provoking me. And now you call me after him. This is serious. Anyway, for me, I'm glad you invited me to discuss this matter. Because usually, when the Lord says, now go and speak, they invite me to come and speak. Now, on this matter, and why Mbide was provoking me, he knows I don't like lies. I don't like lies. And we know reality on the ground. For me, I talked to Mao here. You remember when he had been appointed minister. And you remember how Mao used to pin me down here. Aha! I told you, me, I've never joined. Me, I stayed free. I told you, you were there. Like Dombo usually say, you were a minister, as if it was a crime. Now, Mao went, and I told him here, Mao Bambi, you have gone, and that's it. You are not going to be the Mao that I thought I knew. And he stood there and said, this is a new Mao. I'm not the other Mao. President Museveni, when he won elections in 2011, he clearly said publicly that I am now going to finish opposition. Me, I quote what he says, I'm going to finish opposition. I even debated here, I said, let him tell us, is he going to kill these people? How is he going to finish it? And he started. He started by finishing Kamia's party and took her up. And you know how she dances for Museveni. No more party of Kamia. Then, of course, at the same time, that's when she got the first lady of UPC and made her a minister. Up to now, she's there. And that's how, later on, she got the Anywa, Beatrice Anywa.
No agreement.
Are you waiting? You will talk your sham agreements. They nauseate me. Don't provoke me. I was now talking nicely. So, the next person to get was who? Is now, I think, Sebugwa went, and then Mao. And for me, who is there listening, I'm saying, yeah, the man said he's finishing the opposition, and indeed, he's determined to finish it. And then, for me, you will help me. I'm not criticizing you as such. I'm only talking the reality which I see on the ground. And I want the public, the Ugandans, when we come here, we talk to Ugandans. Ugandans really want to know. We made a constitution. And we said multi-party democracy, where political parties are supposed to exist, the one in government, then the other are waiting in government, next time they will come to government, as usual as the multi-party political democracy works. But in this country, there is no conducive environment for the political parties to work, for government to to acknowledge that the opposition is a government in waiting. The government sees opposition as the enemy, and the enemy is either killed or captured. That is the principle here. That enemy, which is in opposition, is either killed or captured. Now, these days, the capturing is the principle now. I do not know what the Constitution, when they changed a lot of things which I may not know. And that's why I say Mbide would explain to us. As Ugandans, we want to know, are we having a multi-party political democracy, or we are having a coalition democracy?
Yes.
What exactly is the governance type in this country? Because when we see the UPC party is swallowed, then the other is swallowed, then the this FDC, which is fighting, is swallowed through buying, through corruption. Others are swallowed internally through corruption. Others are swallowed officially in one way or another. And then me, I'm talking here, and I'm telling those Ugandans are with me in what I'm saying. The general Ugandans, they see things, they are being swallowed. Now, we don't know. Our constitution, and may I want to state this, as a person who was privileged to be a member of the Uganda Constitutional Commission, and we traversed this whole country and got the draft. I call that a national dialogue for Ugandans. And the draft was tabled to the CA. And CA was constituted by Ugandans representative. And through our national dialogue, we made a constitution. We opened political space. We said opposition should be there. We said the government, whoever is in government, the opposition is there. Now, I don't know whether in changing this constitution, because I haven't been reading the whole of it, I want Mbide to tell people so that we may understand what is happening. Whether we said that there must be coalition, government, we must have coalition, because there is coalition where you sit as a government and opposition, and no, you coalition, you work together. If they say, let us work together, then Ugandans need to know. They have to know that, you know what? We have now, the movement, we couldn't work. We went into the parties with opposition here and there, we couldn't work. We have now come into a coalition. Me, I want to understand that, because I saw President Museveni, when Mao said he's planning, he had started about constitutional reform and that kind of thing. And then I saw President, he stood there on the screen, like I'm here talking. He said, that one, how can I make any agreement with Mao? I just enticed him like I'm always doing. He said that. Now, Mbide, when the head of state whom you have entered into a contract with stands up there, for us, we didn't read your agreement, we don't know it. We know he's the head of state. We know he has powers. He can do anything. All this part of homecoming of Mao, it took a lot of money, and Naguru Hospital there is closing. Can you imagine? Naguru Hospital is there, is closing. Women who used to produce the horror mess, the suffering, but that homecoming, the billions of money.
Really?
The millions of money, whatever took place.
It wasn't a state function.
Who was financing it?
We ourselves.
Let me finish.
No,
are you the one who bought to the home evening? Are you the one? Did I interrupt you?
No, but
you are not the one. Can you please?
Hey.
Me as a Ugandan, just listen. You will educate the public. As a Ugandan, I see a whole big function. State, because I see the chairman of the movement, I see the Fande, Salim Sare, I see all these people.
Well, at least he has clarified that they funded it themselves.
I don't know.
Is DP that rich?
Let us tell the public who bought Maui House. Is it DP? Let me stop here.
Do you have a copy of the agreement?
Let me stop here.
Because this is a front line. You don't just box.
I am going to talk.
This is supposed to be a front line for serious material.
First,
No.
I'm telling people here while Ugandans are suffering.
You said you were a senior citizen.
While Ugandans are suffering the way they are, you can't dispute that. We see big functions with big people in the state. We as Ugandans, we interpret it as what? As the state funds. When I come here and you explain to Ugandans, but you can't stop me from speaking about it. But anyway, what I'm saying is...
You are one person who doesn't like publishing what is not correct.
We need to know. Let the Ugandans hear and understand what sort of governance are we having.
As we take a break, Honorable Dombo, did the Saturday event appear like a consummation of a political marriage that's been hanging for a while?
I don't know whether the viewers and the spectators cared to listen to what was said in Gulu and what is contained in the President's letter to Honorable Norbert Mao. It will give you an understanding of the background and the spirit which was being discussed. The first one, the President welcomed Honorable Norbert Mao into the NRM. Honorable Norbert Mao joined the NRM government. And the President of NRM government is President Yoweri Museveni. So whether you want to distinguish NRM government and NRM party, I want to tell you that Honorable Norbert Mao is a minister in the NRM government where he's serving as the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. The second one is that when you read the literature by President Nyerere, especially at the time he was resisting political parties, he kept asking people of Tanzania that in your clans, and I know all of us belong to some clans wherever we go to our places, in order for a clan to sit and agree, do you first of all get people who will oppose the issues that come up for discussion? So this structure of opposition, that you must create an opposition even before you know the issues you're going to discuss, is this African democracy? Can't we sit in our clans, or like we sit in our clans, and agree or disagree without necessarily creating a group or faction?
So in your opinion, what did the homecoming event reveal?
The homecoming, during the homecoming, General Salim Saleh raised some fundamental question. And these are issues people are missing and delving into matters, perhaps ignoring what they should have asked. General Salim Saleh asked, what happened? There had been a previous very good cooperation between the NRM and the Democratic Party. When they went to the bush to fight, many areas where DP had won gave a lot of support to the national resistance movement. And General Saleh asked that question. And people would want to be interested that in this marriage, who approached who? Because these would be the interesting things that would have been debated and asked in order to understand the spirit of the president. And now when you conclude this with the letter he wrote, the president believes that the structures of the parties as they were formed, they are unnatural, they were sectarian, and they had challenges. And amidst these challenges, when Honorable Mao comes out and offers to relate and cooperate with the NRM administration, contrary to what the previous parties had been doing, this becomes a welcome gesture, and it enables a cooperation and a relationship that will enhance good governance, service delivery, and also reduction of the conflict which usually happens between organizations.
Well, on that very note, we'll take a very short break. But When we return, Honorable Ssemujju will be sharing his view and analysis on what he thinks about the new DP-NRM relationship, especially in the wake of the big fete that we saw at Kaunda Grounds in Gulu. We'll return.
NBS Frontline.
When it is KB o'clock, you need more from your voice bundles. That's why MTN is offering you more minutes across all networks that don't expire. Buy the new 90-minute Freedom Bundle at 5K or the 200-minute bundle at 10K and jazz with no limit. Katiteri ate, no excuses. Make the call now. Dial *100*21# or use the My MTN app and enjoy your Freedom Bundle today. MTN. Together we are unstoppable. Terms and conditions apply. MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.